Hey guys, welcome back to Technical. We all are here super excited today because it's the start of a new season, and the whole idea behind this season is talking about communities, talking about how it brings different kinds of people together, and that's how we're starting the first episode. The first episode is called Communities Bringing Like-Minded People Together. So, before we start out with the episode, let's talk about what communities are in general in a brief idea or for one line or two. Communities are places where people, they might be of like-minded thoughts or they might not be of like-minded thoughts, come together and work together or do whatever they want together in that community and grow together. Essentially, the idea behind a community is getting the work-like experience before work, or even when you're working, a lot of people are still part of communities because it becomes a part of your life. And keeping that in mind, I have four people here today. One myself, the second one Ayush, Priya.
Hey guys, this is Ayush.
The third one Yaswant.
Hey guys, I'm your friendly neighborhood Android dev, Yaswant Narayan here.
And last but not the least, Dhiraj.
Hey, hi everyone, this is Dhiraj.
So all four of us were also people who were part of communities, and that is why we thought of bringing this season of communities. And now that we know what a community is and what all four people are here, and let's just get into the topic and let's talk about the first topic that we have on our hand. That is, how did all of us meet and how did the community bring us together? So let me start out with Ayush. I think he was the first person who joined the community and started out this group.
So I guess the first person that I met was Dhiraj in in DSCVIT, I think. So I guess what we did was it was one of the meetings that me and Dhiraj sat together and we talked about stuff. We figured out that we liked a lot of similar things. We both were a little carefree, I would say, at that time. And then we both were enthusiastic about tech in general, learning new things and stuff around it. So that's, I guess, how me and Dhiraj became friends and we started talking about stuff, hanging out and all.
So the two starting members of the community were Ayush and Dhiraj, who met at a meeting in a community, and then came a very very important part of their life, me, into the community, and where I met Ayush and Dhiraj. The first time I met Ayush and Dhiraj was at an event. So I was also part of the community beforehand, but me being myself, I did not know the importance of communities at that time, and I did not attend meetings at that time. In terms of I just went out to the community for an event, and that's where I met Ayush, and I understood that what importance a community plays in your life and how it brings people together. I met Ayush. We did a lot of fun stuff. We had a lot of fun at the event. In terms of, I still remember a story where me and Ayush had to go through a list of people, and so a lot of people came into the event, and we had no idea if they were male or female. So me and Ayush, being new people in community, had to go through all of them and judge people based on their name and decide if they were male or female. So that was one of my first interactions with Ayush, and till this date, he's one of my best friends. So yeah, that's all because of our community. And after that, I think Yashwant joined the group.
Yeah, so these guys, they all joined in first year. Well, I joined in my second year. So it was, although there was 1 year of gap, I came in and I glued along with everyone in the community very well. So personally, first I interacted with Samarth because there was one project that we had to work together. At that time, Ayush and Dhiraj, I wasn't that familiar with them, like just hi-bye types. And then later on, we got some external projects, and that's when we all collaborated, and that's when our bond started to grow. And yes, yeah, I'm here right now, doing this podcast with all these people. Yep.
So yeah, as you guys can see, this is the power of a community. We all met at different stages in life, all because of the community. And we're still together. We still talk on a daily basis, and now we're conducting a podcast together. That's what a community is all about, and this is our story on how four of us met. So moving on to the next section, which is about one story about communities that really brought a change in our life. And I think all of us have multiple stories to tell about because we were part of the community for a long time, and it really shaped all of our lives. But let's move on to Yashwant, asking first and foremost that what was the one thing that really changed your life because of community?
So, Samarth, you mentioned previously that community gives you this office vibe even before you go to an office or being in a company vibe. So actually, right now in my company, I've seen a lot of other freshers come here and struggle their way to stabilize in this company in a company environment. Well, I got that in a community even beforehand. For example, we had a lead, we had community lead, we had the projects lead, and everything is well organized. There are different teams managing different stuff, and then we have a separate technical team, we have separate management team, and those kind of things. So that kind of environment actually gave me this the company vibe. And then when I get into a company, it was so smooth that it didn't feel different at all. So that's one thing. Another thing is getting knowledge from seniors and mentoring the juniors. I mean, I didn't mentor as much as Ayush and Samarth and maybe Dhiraj did too, but then the handful of people that I taught, there are 3 or 4 people that I used to share my knowledge with. That's when I realized how important and how fun it is to share your knowledge so that others will grow from your knowledge, and you also get to kind of refresh that and stays in your mind. When you teach others, you become strong at the concepts that you teach them. So these kind of things actually helped me a lot when I was in a community.
Yeah, I completely agree with Yashwant on this point that when you interact with people in terms of mentoring them or teaching them, it really shapes your life in a different way, and you get to view it in a different perspective that you have not before. And I think communities really give you that opportunity in life. So that was great from Yashwant. Moving on to Ayush, I think Ayush is a person who's been part of like I can't even count a number of communities, and he might have a lot of stories. We'll just stick to one or two here, but if you really want to know more stories, you can probably ping him on Twitter or Instagram or wherever you want to talk to that interesting person. But yeah, Ayush, all of it.
So I'd actually talk about the theme around the episode that we have about being meeting like-minded people, right? Like that was a presumption of mine as well. So when I came into college and joined communities, the first thing in my mind was obviously learn tech, but that was based on the presumption that I will find people that think like me or are basically like-minded people, right? This presumption was not exactly broken, but was amended in a way where I realized that when you interact with new people, you change the way you think as well. I mean, depending upon who you meet and all. So when I joined communities, I found seniors who did things in a certain way and most certainly different than what I used to do. And I realized that that's a better way. So that helped me change a lot of things that I do, the way I do things and everything. And that amended my thinking altogether. And I realized like-mindedness is not something that is necessarily something that gets off right away when you meet someone. It could be achieved eventually as well. So with my seniors, I was most definitely not in sync with them when I started out. But towards the end of when they were about to leave college and they handed me over the like lead positions in like whatever community Samarth just mentioned, it was in a place that I could understand them and I understand their views and thoughts in life and how to deal with problems and find solutions. And the ones that I agreed with were the people who I'll call like-minded now. Not necessarily whom I started off with. They were not exactly the people who I was in sync with and okay, this guy is thinking this because of these reasons or something. That's not what happened initially, but right now at the place that I am, even with Samarth, Yashwant, Dhiraj, we were not friends from friends from the get-go for sure, but like when it comes to tech, we had all our different approaches, and then we talked together and we discussed, and then we realized and learned a lot of things. So from a design perspective, why a certain button in a certain place makes sense more than in another place is something that I've learned from Samarth, from our all the talks I've had with him for projects and all. So it changes over time. And that's what I kind of try to inculcate in the juniors that I had when I was a senior to them, so that they understand that even if they don't like a person right now because of their technical abilities, maybe, or maybe the tech stack they use, they're biased towards something, or whatever the reason might be, but eventually if they work together with them and try to understand their viewpoints about stuff, or like even if you stick to tech specifics like technologies or tech stacks, they would get a lot more inference from like one person's thought process, and their own horizons would like expand, right? And then they could like think about like big picture stuff about how things work together, instead of just writing a Python script to say like find prime numbers in a given range. And that's when you like start actually building solutions. When you have like a group of people, that a certain individual can do only so much, right? Even like Mark Zuckerberg had to hire people to build Facebook, and so does Elon Musk and every other entrepreneur you can think of. But yeah, I mean, that's where you start off like finding like-minded people, when you try to accommodate their views as well alongside yours. That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, so as you guys can see, Yashwant talked about how he interacted with juniors and learned from that, and Ayush, most of all, talked about how he interacted with seniors and learned from that. So each and every person in a community has different views and things and takes it in a different way. So even if you all are like-minded, or you might not be like-minded, you have your own different paths. It's like everybody is following a different path, but all of the paths take you to success. And that's I think a very good way to summarize a community. So coming down to the point of what personally changed my life because of a community, I would say, like I talked about before, I did not used to go to meetings. I did not used to talk to people. So I had like a friend circle of like 5 to 6, and that's great. I mean, some people like that, and I surely did love that for 3 years in my life. But after going to the first event and talking to Ayush and the amazing story I talked about, I realized how much fun communities are, and I started taking part in communities, and I started going to meetings, and that's where I understood that yes, I have a certain skill that I can grow upon by sitting in my room, but I think I can grow upon it even more if I go to the community and talk to people and grow in terms of taking their perspectives in as well. So that was one of the things that really changed my life. I started going to communities, I started talking to people, and I really got confidence in terms of not just talking to people or public speaking and stuff like that, but really confident in terms of what I do and what I'm capable of as well. So yeah, I think that's the part of communities. They, for some people, they really do change your life, and for some people, they might not work out, and it's fine. And this kind of paves my way into the next section, which is, do communities work for everyone, or do only like-minded people work together in communities? And I think I'll bring on Dhiraj for this. He's the one who has a lot of experience with working with like-minded people and also working in communities, but not certainly building out a career out of it.
Yeah, for me, like communities did not work that well because, and I'll tell that communities do not work for everyone. So even if you are working along with like-minded people in the community, you might not be able to resonate with them properly. It can be because of your own personality or because of the environment that is there in the community. But in most of the cases, like-minded people, they work well together. So for me, it was like within the community, I was not able to thrive that much. But whatever the things I learned from the community and my interactions with those like-minded people, it helped me grow as an individual by observing them rather than talking with them or making projects with them. It helped me by observing them. And rather than being in a community, I decided to go outside and reach out to people outside the community, make a team out of that and learn from that. But definitely the most bare minimum thing that the community can give you is you can make very good friends. So even if you are not able to cope up well with the community, you will definitely get good friends. And ultimately in the future, you can be like making a podcast with them, like me. I am now making podcast with three of my friends who were part of the community DSCVIT. So you can never think I was not a part of the community, I was not contributing much to the community, but ultimately after my 4 years of college life, I'm doing a venture out of them. So yeah, this is my take on this.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with Dhiraj on this part. It might not work out for everybody in a personal life sense, but you should never have something to look back to and think, if I would have done that, maybe it would have been different. You should always give everything a try. Maybe it's just for a day or two, but if it doesn't work out for you, it does not work out for you. Your life is all about experiencing things and figuring out what is the best for you, I think. Now that Dheeraj has talked about his own perspective of how communities do not work for everyone, I think I'll bring on Ayush, who might have a third person perspective. Who me and Ayush were actually leads of certain teams in the community, and we saw a lot of people who left, and Ayush personally dealt with a lot of people. So he might have a greater idea of that in terms of third perspective.
Yeah, so coming to I definitely agree with what Dheeraj said. So adding on to that, communities definitely are not for everyone. Everyone is not meant to be a part of community. That's by no fault of the communities themselves or the individual. It's just that some things are not meant to be. So there's that. Talking about as Samarth said, I handled a lot of people in my team, and a lot of them eventually the kind of work that we did in the communities that we were a part of, and they were definitely excited by it. But when they did become a part of it, they eventually realized that this is not for them. In a way that let's say some people are just lone wolves. Okay, so some people like to be their own bosses and everything, and which is perfectly fine. There's no harm or any fault of theirs that they want to work alone. That's perfectly fine. It's just that that attitude in a community would not work out for them or the community, and hence it's best if they leave. And they most of the times they did eventually. And if they did not, and if they were still facing issues, I along with Samarth did our best to maybe accommodate their problems if there was a communication issue or something like that. But after a certain amount of effort that has been put from both ends, it was evident for some people that they just didn't like the fact that community worked in a certain way, and they had their own conceptions about how they wanted to work. So they left, even though they did make a lot of good friends here. So I know a lot of people who were in the community who left or were asked to leave, or plenty of other reasons for them to leave, but they still ping me. I'm sure they ping Dhiraj, Yaswant, Samarth, and any other senior that that they came to know about during their tenure in the community. But they had to leave, and they did. So it's about a sync of attitudes as well. And as Samarth said, after you put in some effort, maybe a day to, even if it's a week or a month, whatever time frame that one seems fit, if it still does not work out, then you should definitely go out and try out new things. And this is also true for communities. Communities are also of different kinds, right? Some expect you to drop by and be in a physical location. Some just expect you to collaborate in some way. And some are open communities. You can walk in and you can walk out without ever having to tell anybody that who you are and everything else. So just trying out new stuff might get you the like-minded people, but it does not need to be necessarily from a community.
Yeah, so I think Ayush gave a very, very good perspective around third person on how he saw different people working out with communities, and for some people who did not work out with communities. And he also gave a very brief idea about what communities are and how there are different kinds of communities. And if you really want to learn more about that, we have an episode at Tech Electrical for impact of tech communities on the development of a college student. Go there, check it out. It will give you a very good idea about what communities are. And I think it could be a very good way for you to pick out what community you want to get into. So coming to the end of this, I think I just have one last question for each and every person over here. So when it comes to communities, what would be your one-line description that explains your personal journey with them? So each of us has a personal journey. So one line or just one quote, if somebody has picked that up. So about that and how it shaped your life. So let's start off with Yashwant here.
If you simply ask me in one line, I would relate to this proverb like motivation is the key to success. Because personally, I'm this type of person who is motivated by what other people are doing around me. And it's like I need some constant motivation to do. It's like if I'm left alone, I wouldn't be very productive. But if I'm with some other people who are doing the same stuff or like kind of involved, that's when I'm motivated and I push myself to do a lot of stuff. And I got that opportunity in a community, and that really helped me to grow and learn a lot in my career. And I'm here where I am because of this community. So motivation is the thing for me.
Yeah, sure. I think all four of us here have motivated each of us at certain stages in our life, and I think we are all here all because of each other and the community we were all part of, or whatever we experienced in life.
Exactly.
Let's move forward to the Dhiraj.
Yeah, for me, I wanted to quote what Martin Luther King said. Like, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, just keep moving. So by observing the like-minded people in the community, I just kept moving, and it helped me grow as an individual.
That's I think a very deep quote and a very important quote that could motivate a lot of people in life. Let's move on to Ayush.
So the line that I have in mind might resonate with VITians more than it would with other engineers. But I guess communities are a place to learn, where you get like-minded people and you can talk about stuff, you can learn new things from them and everything. And it also gives you a chance to grow by widening your horizons about stuff that you previously were unaware of, be it in the form of technologies, things, methods, and ways to solve problems.
Yeah, so if you guys really want to know what Ayush meant by that, a place to learn and chance to grow, just Google search it, you'll get an idea of what he's talking about. Coming down to one line that really explains my personal journey in the community, I think I would kind of relate it to a certain book I'm reading at the moment. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a brilliant book. I've just started reading, so I'm not a book expert in any sense, but so in that book, he says a line which says, anything that is repeated for a certain period of time turns into a habit. And that habit is not something you want to create, it's just something that is embedded in your mind. And I think that really relates to a community for me, because for me, it never felt as a habit. Yes, it did feel as a repetition for the first week or two, and then it just clicked in my mind, and it was just an atomic habit for me, I would say. So yeah, that's one line from a book, I would say, that really resonates with me. Yeah, I think that's it for this section, and I hope you all had a great time in this podcast. So we had a great podcast today, wherein all four of us talked about communities. We had a lot of topics to talk about. We talked about what actually communities are. We also talked about how all four of us met in a community and how all four of us got together. I think we've talked about that before, but today we talked about that in a community sense. Then we also talked about how communities and how being part of certain communities or working with like-minded people really changed our life. We had a lot of perspectives on that. Then we also went a little south in terms of talking about how communities do not work for everyone, and how like-minded people, even if you're working with like-minded people, it might not work out. So yeah, that's something you can take a learning from as well. And then we ended it upon how each of us learned one single thing from a community and how we described it. That's it for this episode, and I hope you all had a great time. You guys can check out all our social media handles at TechLitical. We are live on Twitter and Instagram. You can check out our podcast. We, I think, completed our season 1 week back, and it's been a great ride. We are super excited to bring you season 2, and this is, I think, the first or the second episode of season 2. We are super motivated, just as Yashwant said that motivation is the key to success. So let's think that we move on to a successful path. But we are super motivated to move forward and produce more podcasts for you. If you have any ideas, please feel free to reach out to us, any one of us, or even Technical on social media. We are live on each and every podcast platform out there. Google Podcasts, we have Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, we have Spotify. We have a lot of podcast applications, and we are live on all of them. So go to your local podcast application and just search for Technical, and you'll see a lot of episodes from our side. And with that, this is the ending note, and thank you all for tuning into this episode for Technical.